My wife of 40 years, Sophia, lost her close friend Olivia to cancer. At the memorial service, Sophia suddenly announced she was going to remarry Olivia's husband, Dylan. She cried, saying the two had truly loved each other for years and hoped to spend the rest of their lives together. The children's wailing, relatives' earnest pleas, my own begging. She met them all with silence. Watching the two of them clasp hands in the pouring rain, I emptied all my strength. It turned out I had never had her heart. What was the point of holding her now? I pushed the door open and handed Sophia the signed divorce agreement. Fine, I agreed to the divorce. Sophia looked at me, disbelief filling her eyes. Then she shook as she took the divorce papers, carefully shielding them from the rain with her clothes as if they were a talisman. My chest involuntarily ached. This freedom to pursue true love is likely something she'd been waiting for 40 years. Dylan, holding her fingers, showed lines at the corners of his eyes, but remained debonair and elegant. He gently drew Sophia into his arms and said to me earnestly, "Ethan, thank you for letting this happen. I will take good care of Sophia." As the two of them vanished into the rainy night, two cars urgently pulled up at the door. My son Jasper and daughter Chloe quickly ushered me inside. Seeing another copy of the divorce agreement on the table, they exchanged a look and asked me to confirm. "Dad, what is this?" "You agreed to divorce Mom." I felt utterly exhausted. I pressed my hand to my forehead and took deep breaths to ease the pounding headache. After a long while I spoke, "A forced melon isn't sweet. At our age, we don't have many years left. If your mother insists on this, then let's respect her decision." Sophia and Olivia were best friends for 40 years. They met because of me and Dylan, but their friendship deepened into something much stronger, and the two families became like one over the years. After 10 years fighting cancer, Olivia finally passed away. At her memorial, Sophia did something that shocked everyone. She announced she would remarry her friend's husband, Dylan. It was only then that I learned she and Dylan had pledged themselves to each other more than 40 years ago during overseas aid work, but were forced apart by repatriation policies. Later, Sophia and I met through matchmaking and married. On our wedding day, among the guests I had invited, I saw my first love again, but it was too late by then. Time eroded our hesitations. Sophia, out of concern for sickly Olivia, had restrained herself, but after Olivia died, she shamelessly declared where her heart lay. Silence spread through the room. My daughter poured a cup of warm water and put it in my hand, then after a moment asked softly, "Dad, after you two divorced, how was the house divided?" I was taken aback for a moment, realizing the children did have a right to know, since it affected their future responsibilities toward their parents. So I answered frankly, "Your mother demanded to leave with nothing, but I stipulated in the agreement that it be split evenly." Jasper breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good. Dad, over the years for Aunt Olivia's illness, Dylan's family has run out of US dollars." The tone made it sound as if he were worried that if Mom remarried Dylan, they'd have a hard time. Chloe shot her brother a look. He realized his mistake and hurriedly added, "I mean, Dad, you should still keep some US dollars for yourself when you're on your own." My eyes stung as I looked at my children, who had already started their own families and were managing on their own. Luckily, I still have you. The next day, after Sophia and I picked up the divorce papers and went home, she packed up in silence and moved out. She moved quickly because there was very little she wanted to take. She didn't even take a single photo of our children. The Sophia before me, worn by the years, now moved with the lightness and joy of a young girl. I choked up and broke the silence. "I heard. You're going to Shiyu City soon. It's dry there and your lungs aren't good. Take the alpine honey from the house with you." Sophia looked back at me, hesitated only a second, and refused. "No need. It's not something essential. Since we're splitting up, it should be clean." Everyone walks away briskly and without regrets. I lower my head and gave a bitter smile, the self-mockery frozen at the corners of my mouth. Sophia has a lung disease, an old illness she picked up during overseas aid work. No famous doctor could cure it. During a field survey, I once obtained some high mountain honey that a mountain farmer produced, which can ease her discomfort. But that honey is rare and not sold to outsiders. So every year I drove over 1,000 kilometers, begging the farmer to give me a few bottles. It turns out that what I thought was a sweet sacrifice was, in her heart, something optional and dispensable, just like the 40-year marriage I treasured. Soon Sophia came out carrying a small, lightweight suitcase. She walked up to me and smiled as she said goodbye. "Thank you for everything, Ethan. You can do whatever you want with the rest of the things at home. I don't want them. Oh, and one last thing. I should give this back to you." With that, she placed a gold ring on the coffee table. It was the engagement ring I had given her, with a handcrafted vintage clasp, a one-of-a-kind piece. But apart from the wedding day, she never wore it again. When I asked, she brushed it off, saying it was inconvenient to wear. I thought she had lost it and was embarrassed to say so. Now I realized she must have felt that small circle was a shackle binding her. Dazzled by the flash of gold, I sprang up abruptly, my breathing a little labored, as if that tiny ring had gripped my throat. The air froze for a few seconds, and then I simply took her light suitcase and walked to the door. "I'll drive you to the airport then, one last time." Before Sophia could refuse, I opened the door and saw a car waiting outside. Jasper and Chloe were already there. The kids had told me to go home and rest. They would take their mother. The sound of the car engine was cut off outside and soon vanished. I collapsed weakly onto the sofa and watched the sunlight on the floor change from white to yellow. The last slant of the sun hit an old-fashioned vase in the corner of the living room. It was a wedding gift sent 40 years ago by Dylan and his then-girlfriend Olivia, a truly expensive and respectable present in those days. I still remember Sophia tearing up when she unwrapped it the day after the wedding. At the time, I ached with self-pity, feeling inadequate for not being able to buy my wife something nice to show off. It turned out her tears were an offering to a lost love reunited with an old flame, a regret for true love missed. No wonder Sophia never envied Olivia's good family background. She even deliberately drew close to Olivia. After meeting at the wedding, the two quickly became kindred friends, and that friendship lasted 40 years. Even Jasper and Chloe took Olivia and her husband as godparents, utterly close and inseparable. A hazy, dreamlike recollection filled every corner of the house. I spent several days and nights sinking into gloom and silence. Groggily, I fumbled for my phone and found it wouldn't turn on. Holding the damaged phone, I went out for the first time in days. The owner of the familiar repair shop on the corner briskly checked it and chatted with me. "Teacher Ethan, what brings you here? Didn't your whole family go to West City together? Your wife's videos on that foreign app are so beautiful." In my days, the phone suddenly powered on with its ringtone. The owner handed it back and said it was just a minor fault, so he wouldn't charge me. I even forgot to say thank you and hurried home. After plugging in the phone to charge, the first thing I did was open Sophia's app. For several days, she had been sharing scenes from West City. When I clicked on them, I saw that every video featured her, Dylan, Jasper, and Chloe. The four of them were happy and harmonious, like a real blood-related family. With trembling hands, I called Jasper 10 calls in a row. None answered. I then rang my daughter Chloe. After the phone rang for a long time, she finally picked up lazily and snapped once in impatience. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. "Why did you all go to West City?" Chloe's voice suddenly turned cold. "Mom has already divorced you. My brother and I are grown up. You can't control where we go. Mom has suffered so much for us, done so much. She deserves to enjoy life. You were always so busy and never really spent time with her. Now she's found her happiness. Can't you quietly give your blessing?" Her words cut in my heart like a knife. All the days and nights I worked tirelessly were for this family, for our 2 children. More than my wife's departure, the cold indifference of the children I raised with such care chilled me to the bone. When Jasper was 6, he was stung by a poisonous bee because he was too playful. I didn't even have time to put on my shoes. I shouldered him and ran 10 miles to the clinic, and the blisters that ground into the soles of my feet took half a year to heal. When Chloe was 10, she entered a classical music performance competition, and the night before the strings snapped, I rode my bike across town in the middle of the night, visiting every instrument shop until I finally knocked and roused a craftsman to rest-string her violin. All those past efforts, it turned out, remained only in my own heart. My voice hoarse, I began, "I'm not." Before I could finish, Dylan's voice cut in from the other end of the line. "Ethan, don't be mad at the kids. Sophia and I came to West City only to revisit old places before we die. The kids are filial. They wanted to see where their mother once traveled. We've been such good brothers for so many years. I know you're broad-minded and won't read too much into it." His voice, as always, was composed and gentle, yet he casually pinned the blame on me. I didn't respond. Almost uncontrollably, I slammed the phone down. The call ended and the phone fell onto the sofa. Its already old screen instantly cracked. Of course, that junk phone remained stubbornly functional, and through the spiderweb of fractures, I saw a comment on Sophia's foreign short video app. The two kids have been calling Dylan Godfather 4 years now. I think he's almost catching up to their biological dad. Dizziness hit me. Uncontrollably, my mind recalled the 2 times Sophia became pregnant. Both times she initiated it and insisted on no precautions. I had thought it was such a natural, heaven-sent blessing. Now it seemed. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Luna, an editor from the publishing house, stood outside holding a document. She said to me, "Professor Ethan, we couldn't reach you by phone for days, so I took the liberty of visiting. Regarding your forthcoming book on ancient site research, adding Mr. Dylan as accredited author requires your signature." Wait, my voice was hoarse as if squeezed out of my throat. "Add Dylan as an author?" Luna was a bit stunned, then quickly nodded and said, "Your wife handled the publishing arrangements and repeatedly confirmed with us that you were aware of and agreed to it. But a couple of days ago, headquarters added a new requirement. The publication needs your personal signature." I trembled all over, clutching the thin few pages of consent, feeling as if all the blood in my body had rushed to my head. Before I could speak, everything went black and I fainted. 3 days after I was admitted, Sophia and the 2 kids arrived late. When they saw me awake, there was not a trace of concern. Sophia cut straight to the point. "Dylan contributed a lot of ideas to your book. Including his name as an author is only right." I looked at her with a look of entitlement, my throat tightening. Impossible. That was the result of nearly 10 years of field work and research. Every word was my own blood and sweat. And Dylan had only offered some suggestions on formatting. Why should he get my copyright? Sophia clearly came prepared and sneered. "If you don't want to give him a share, fine, but I advise you to think about the kids. If you don't give Dylan the copyright, don't blame them for being unfilial later. They'll leave you all alone." Hearing that, my heart completely sank. She actually threatened me with the kids. My gaze swept over Jasper's and Chloe's faces. Both looked a bit awkward, but still chimed in. "Yeah, Dad. You've published so many books. What's one more with Uncle Dylan involved? We're family. Haven't you always said you love Mom and us? You're even going to dodge this little thing." I laughed in anger, looking at them coldly. "Don't call me Dad. I find it disgusting. I raised other people's child for decades, and now I'm supposed to split my life's work with him? I'm not an idiot." Sophia's face changed abruptly. "What are you talking nonsense about?" I trembled as I took the paternity test report from the drawer and slammed it in front of her. "What I'm talking about? You know better than anyone, don't you, Sophia?" Sophia took the document in a daze, her face turning ashen. Jasper and Chloe's pupils contracted sharply, and they instinctively blurted out, "Dad, how did you know?" From their reaction, it seemed they had long known they weren't my biological children, which explained their sudden coldness. I forced a bitter laugh, coldness filling my eyes. They say nurture outweighs nature, but blood is still thicker than water. I never expected to raise 2 ingrates. My whole life has been a joke. Chloe lowered her head, not daring to look at me. Jasper, however, spoke with arrogant disdain. "Dad, look, we're still willing to call you Dad. Why be so picky? As long as you agree to share the copyright, we'll still, for the sake of all these years, make sure someone smashes roof tiles at your funeral to see you off." "Jasper, you..." My anger could no longer be contained. I struggled to stand when suddenly a sharp pain struck my chest. The next moment, I felt a sweetness at my throat and a mouthful of blood sprayed onto the snow-white quilt. Amid the panic and shouting of those around me, my consciousness gradually faded. When I opened my eyes again, I was standing in a bridal chamber draped in celebratory red. Sunshine poured through the window, and sounds of festivity came from afar. Pushing open the door, my parents George and Margaret, still in the prime of life, wore joyful faces and tears as they looked at me. Sophia stood among the crowd in a red dress, her complexion unusually pale. At that moment, a sudden commotion came from outside, an all-too-familiar scene. Over a dozen colleagues from work bearing gifts cheerfully crowded into the new room to congratulate me on my marriage. I stared intently at Sophia. Sure enough, her gaze was fixed on the tallest figure in the group. Dylan and Olivia walked in arm, smiling as they handed over a beautifully wrapped vase. Ethan, congratulations on your wedding. Wishing you and Mrs. Johnson a lifetime of happiness and early blessings. The hand Dylan offered felt warm to the touch. This wasn't a dream. I had been reborn, not yet fully composed. I mechanically reached out to accept the gift. The next second, Sophia suddenly shoved through the crowd and lunged forward, smashing the vase on the floor. While everyone gasped, only I saw the resoluteness in her eyes. Sophia had been reborn too. Then, with fingers gripping so hard they turned white, she forcibly snatched Dylan from Olivia and, without hesitation, entwined her hand with his. I won't marry him. I'm going to marry the person I truly love. I watched coldly, but my hand still trembled slightly. Compared to the simply surprised onlookers, Dylan's expression was even more dramatic. Confusion, shock, panic, helplessness. A jumble of emotions played across his face. He came to his senses and tried to pull his hand free from Sophia's, but it was held fast. Sophia looked up at him, eyes rimmed with tears. Dylan, didn't we promise to hold each other's hands and grow old together? Those words were like a spark thrown into hot oil. The scene exploded instantly. Sophia's mother, Emily Taylor, went ashen, clutching her chest as if about to faint. Relatives steadied her while she wailed, "Sophia, what are you doing? Let go." Amid that cry, her father, Arthur Taylor, strode forward and slapped Sophia hard across the face. "Shut up. Do you know what you're doing?" Sophia staggered from the blow, but stubbornly straightened herself. She coldly removed the engagement ring from her ring finger and flung it to the floor. The vintage clasped ring symbolizing our marital vow rang crisply and rolled to my feet. "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I've spent my whole life listening to you. Dylan and I had already pledged ourselves to each other. I can't marry someone else. I don't want to live in misery forever. I'm going to live for myself." Sophia was nearly hysterical. She dragged Dylan's hand and turned to leave. Dylan glanced back at Olivia awkwardly, then bit his lip and followed Sophia's footsteps. Olivia's face drained of color as she collapsed to the floor with a thud. Colleagues scrambled to help her, and the scene grew more chaotic. My parents sat with sullen faces, silent and gasping. Sophia's parents suddenly looked 10 years older as they bowed in panic and apologized. "Ethan, this child was confused. We're sorry. Please be magnanimous. This matter. I waved my hand, drew a deep breath, and forced my voice to stay calm. This marriage ends here. I bent to pick up the ring and handed it to my mother. "Mom, it's at least gold. Don't waste it. Take it to be melted down and have it made into a pair of earrings to wear." Everyone looked at one another, unable to believe my rational, almost cold attitude. I said nothing further and turned to leave that noisy bridal room. The sunlight outside was so glaring I could barely open my eyes, yet felt as warm as rebirth. The matter spread quickly. Marcus, the company leader, sympathized with my situation and approved a few days' leave so I could recover. A few days later, when I stepped into the office, I heard colleagues whispering, "Did you hear? Dylan quit. Apparently ran off with Sophia." "Yeah, I heard they went to Benhai City to start a business overseas. TSK, Seems like true love. My emotions did not stir at all. Soon, I requested a transfer to a remote research institute to inspect and restore a newly discovered ancient site, thoroughly distancing myself from places of contention. 10 years passed, and my life turned over completely. Buried in scholarship, I became a doctoral supervisor at 30 and rose to prominence in the field of ancient site restoration. At first, I still occasionally thought of Sophia and felt how foolish I had been. In my previous life, I gave up better career opportunities to avoid living apart, staying with the local unit. To help with household expenses, I spent years on field surveys, enduring wind and sun, yet I couldn't even get a word of concern from her. I remember once coming back from a business trip sick and exhausted. She only gave me a bowl of cold, thin congee for one night. Instead, her close friend Olivia, knowing about it, brought me some homemade dishes. I should have realized long ago that she cared for me less than a stranger. Because of blind love, I couldn't bring myself to scold her and always made excuses for her. In this life, I no longer waste time trying to please those who aren't worth it. The path of restoring ancient sites is long and arduous. To draw more attention, I started making short videos on foreign short video apps to spread knowledge about ancient site culture. After years of effort, I gained 1 million followers and encouraged more aspiring young people to join the field. That day, I was surveying an old church in the suburbs when I received a call from my unit leader, Marcus. The signal was poor in the mountains. I could barely make out him telling me to hurry back to the city to attend a dinner related to funding for the restoration project. Thinking it was news about the allocation, I didn't bother with the dust and mud on me and immediately drove back. I arrived at the restaurant location my colleague sent, pushed open the private room door, and heard a burst of warm applause. The applause was for the 2 people sitting at the center of the large round table. It turned out to be Dylan and Sophia, whom I hadn't seen in 10 years. Dylan was in a suit, his hair slicked back, his whole demeanor radiating smug satisfaction. The colleagues seated around them raised their glasses to him. Mr. Parker, you're truly a trendsetter. Choosing to start a business overseas 10 years ago, what foresight? Exactly. Mr. Parker is a big name in Ben High City now, a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, so many roles. Dylan waved his hand, feigning humility, but his gaze landed on me. Not at all. My small success is largely thanks to Sophia. If she hadn't suggested moving to Ben High back then, I wouldn't have caught such a great opportunity. Everyone followed his gaze and turned to look at me, faces showing awkwardness. Many at this table had witnessed that wedding fiasco 10 years ago. I simply smiled slightly and greeted them without flattery or obsequiousness. Sorry, I was delayed on the way. When Sophia saw me, her hand trembled and she could barely hold her glass steady. Dylan grabbed her wrist, raised an eyebrow, and looked at me. Long time no see, Teacher Ethan. I was just marveling at how interesting fate is, and here you are. Sophia's choice back then changed several people's destinies at once, don't you think? The colleagues caught the provocation in his words, and all gave awkward smiles, but no one dared reply. Marcus hurriedly smoothed things over and urged me to come sit down. Then he solemnly introduced that Dylan and Sophia planned to donate a sum of US dollars to the Ancient Ruins Restoration Foundation. I nodded at his words, turned to face the 2 of them, and spoke with distant politeness. Thank you both for your donation. Mr. Parker has been away from the office for so long, yet still cares to contribute to the restoration of historic buildings. It is our honor. Dylan hadn't expected such sincere thanks from me, and the smile on his face immediately froze. The atmosphere grew a little awkward. Dylan furrowed his brow slightly, forced a smile, poured himself a full glass of Biggio, and held it up to me, proposing a toast to our past friendship and tonight's gathering. The provocation in his eyes was completely unmasked. Sophia gently tugged his sleeve, looking at me with some concern. Everyone knew I couldn't hold my liquor and usually didn't drink at all. After a few seconds of stalemate, everyone quickly picked up their glasses and toasted Dylan, trying to drown out the embarrassment with noise. Marcus signaled for me to take a sip. Thinking of the project that had been suspended for a long time due to funding issues, I exhaled lightly and took the glass with both hands. The crystalline liquid slid down my throat without a drop spilled, igniting a burning heat through my body. My face and eyes flushed instantly. My legs felt weak, and I managed to say, "I can't hold my liquor. I can only accompany Mr. Parker and everyone this far." Marcus knew I was at my limit and hurriedly explained that I'd been on a business trip for a long time and needed to get home early. Otherwise, Mrs. Johnson would worry. At that, Sophia jolted and widened her eyes. I suddenly felt that her expression was very familiar. Probably at Olivia's funeral in my previous life, when I heard she was going to remarry, she had the same reaction. But now I have my own fulfilling life and couldn't care less about her feelings. I staggered to the restaurant entrance, intending to hail a cab home. A slim, graceful figure hurried up beside me and took my arm. I turned and saw worry in Sophia's eyes. "You've had too much to drink. I'll get a car to take you home." I had no idea what scene she was putting on this time, pretending to care. I yanked my arm away from her forcefully and stepped back to keep my distance. No need. I can go home by myself. Sophia sulked, but her words were concerned. "Why are you pretending? Looking at you in those rags. Are you planning to walk back again to save money?" I almost laughed out loud. In my last life, I was generous to Sophia and the kids, buying them whatever they wanted. But I skimped on myself. After my bike broke, I couldn't even bring myself to take the bus, walking tens of kilometers to and from the office every day. What she didn't know was how much my lover in this life cherishes and loves me, never allowing me to suffer even a little. If Dylan hadn't forced me to drink, I would have driven off long ago. Sophia leaned over and tried to pull me again, but I dodged. "Ethan, I was the one who did you wrong back then. Give me a chance to make it up to you." Saying that, she took out a bank card. I felt a headache and laid it out to Sophia. "We have no relationship anymore, and I don't need any compensation from you. Please stay away from me. I already have a wife and children." Sophia froze on the spot. "A child." Her voice wavered with tears. Sophia stared with her beautiful eyes, now full of emptiness. "So you already have a child. That's wonderful. Then I want to be the child's godmother, can I? Ethan, will you make me the child's godmother? Please." I widened my eyes, looking at Sophia, who had suddenly lost her mind. She was full of tears, collapsed on the ground like a lost soul. A tall figure rushed out and yanked her up from the ground. "Sophia, are you crazy? What nonsense are you talking about?" Dylan squeezed Sophia's arm until it went red, and seeing me still there, forced down his anger. "Our child is at home in Bay City. You're drunk, let's go." Saying that, he harshly dragged the walking dead-like Sophia away. The so-called reunion ended in discord. But recently, it was strange. People from the past kept appearing in unexpected places. I accompanied my wife to a prenatal checkup, and in the corridor, I ran into a familiar figure holding a child. Olivia looked up, paused for a moment, then smiled. "Hello, Teacher Ethan. I didn't expect to see you here." Maybe because we were both victims of the runaway wedding fiasco 10 years ago, Olivia was very friendly with me, and, pulling her son along, called me uncle. This time I was the one taken aback. In the previous life, Olivia and Dylan had no children, which was why they adopted Jasper and Chloe and raised them almost as their own. Sophia had told me then that Olivia had health issues and couldn't conceive. In this life, she didn't marry Dylan, yet she successfully became pregnant and had a child. Could it be? But I felt awkward asking such a private question, so I just smiled and complimented her child on being cute and well-behaved. Olivia, seeing that I had come to accompany my wife, sighed with emotion. It was destiny, really. Luckily, that pair of true lovers ended up together back then. Otherwise, we'd have been the unlucky ones. I looked at her puzzled. Olivia seemed surprised. "Teacher Ethan, you don't know? Sophia had a falling out with her family and eloped with Dylan. Dylan's mother was furious. She beat Sophia so badly she ended up in the hospital, calling her a temptress who'd lured her son away from a stable job. Could Sophia have been injured so she couldn't have children? Then why did Dylan say they had a child?" I was completely baffled when Olivia curled her lips and mocked. Later, Dylan's mother couldn't resist her son and concocted some male-producing folk remedy to help Sophia recover. Fate again. Good intentions gone wrong. It sterilized her daughter-in-law. My heart jolted. I never would have expected so much to be hidden beneath Sophia's tears that night. It all made sense now. In the previous life, it must have been Olivia who suffered her mother-in-law's kindness and ended up childless. No wonder they never mentioned Dylan's mother. Still, something fell off, and I couldn't help voicing my doubt. But Dylan himself said their child is in Bay City. Olivia laughed, raised 3 fingers meaningfully. 3 illegitimate children, forcing Sophia to acknowledge them. And those are just the 3 boys brought home. How many more are out there drifting around? Who knows? I was so shocked I couldn't speak. My wife came out of the department, and I hurried to meet her. Olivia's gaze dropped to my wife's pregnant belly. Then she looked down at her own son, remarking with a mocking sigh, "We only parted with the wrong ones to meet the right ones." If Sophia saw how good you are to your wife, she'd probably be full of regret, huh? As if to confirm Olivia's words, that very late night, I was jolted awake by a call from an unknown number. Not wanting to wake my wife, I tiptoed to the balcony to answer. Sophia's piercing sobs came through the receiver, slicing the quiet night. "Ethan, I'm really helpless. I don't know who to turn to. Can you come downstairs and see me?" I frowned, annoyed that she was asking for my address. "Sophia, you're not a child anymore. Don't act on impulse. I've said it many times. I have nothing to do with you anymore. If you keep harassing me, I'll call the police." Sophia couldn't listen. She sobbed and tossed and turned, insisting on seeing me. I took a few deep breaths, afraid she'd barge in and startle my pregnant wife, and finally changed clothes and went downstairs. The night breeze was a little chilly. Sophia stood under the streetlight in thin clothing. When she saw me, her eyes immediately reddened and tears welled up. "Ethan," she choked and tried to rush at me, her voice trembling so much it was almost inaudible. I was wrong. I really was wrong. In this life and the last, I was blind to let you go. Please give me one more chance, will you? I know I hurt you, but I'm regretful. I really know I was wrong." As she spoke, she took out a bank card. I felt a headache and laid it out to Sophia bluntly. "We are no longer involved, and I don't need any compensation from you. Please stay away from me. I already have a wife and child." Sophia froze on the spot. "A child?" Her voice had a sob in it. Sophia stared with her beautiful eyes, which were full of emptiness. "So you already have a child? That's great. Then I want to be the child's godmother, can I? Ethan, let me be the child's godmother, please." I widened my eyes, staring at Sophia, who had suddenly gone daft. Her face was streaked with tears as she collapsed to the ground, distraught. A tall figure rushed out and yanked her up harshly. "Sophia, are you crazy? What nonsense are you talking about?" Dylan squeezed Sophia's arm until it reddened, and seeing me still standing there, he forced down his anger. "Our child is at home in Bay City. You're drunk, let's go." With that, he dragged the walking corpse of Sophia away. The night wind carried a chill as Sophia, thinly dressed, stood under the streetlight. At the sight of me, her eyes immediately reddened and tears welled up. "Ethan, I'm wrong. I really was wrong. In this life and the last, I was blind to let you go. Please give me one more chance." She choked on her words and took out a bank card. "I don't need a name or status. I'll divorce Dylan, bring the dollars back to you. I can take care of your wife and children." I put on a stern face and briskly withdrew my hand. "Sophia, heaven already gave us a chance, and you chose Dylan. Everyone must be responsible for their own choices. There's still a long life ahead. You shouldn't drown in the past." She stared at me in a daze, then laughed in despair. Barely in her early 30s and well-maintained, she still couldn't hide her helplessness and exhaustion. She must really be living badly with Dylan in this life. But I didn't even feel pity. I looked at her coldly and intended to leave. Sophia suddenly went mad, bursting into tears as she knelt and clung to my leg. "Ethan, don't go. I'm begging you, don't leave me." No sooner had the words fallen than a tremendous force yanked Sophia off me. A crisp slap rang out accompanied by Dylan's furious shout. "I'll catch you two adulterers yet. Sophia, you filthy bitch, how dare you cuckold me?" A bright red handprint instantly bloomed on Sophia's cheek. She clutched her face, her eyes indifferent and venomous as they stared at Dylan. "You've got the nerve to glare at me?" Dylan snarled as he kicked Sophia in the small of her back with all his strength each time. Soon she curled up and blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. But she ignored Dylan and gave me a bitter smile. "Ethan, look, this is the price I pay for my choice." Dylan's veins bulged. He swung a fist to land on Sophia. "You bitch, daring to flirt in front of me. I'll kill you." I couldn't bear it and stepped forward to stop Dylan from continuing the assault. He was pushed aside, panting, pointing at me with venom. "Ethan, I knew you still hold grudges and won't let go. Now you're stirring Sophia to divorce, so you can live it up, right? Ha! I recorded everything of your tryst. Prepare to be disgraced." He waved the phone in his hand, grinning fiercely. "Lucky you two put on this show. Sophia, get ready to leave with nothing." Hearing this, Sophia weakly said, "Dylan, you didn't just decide this today, did you?" "Oh, what else?" Dylan snorted coldly, his gaze sardonic. "If 10 years ago you hadn't claimed to be reborn and said you'd strike it rich by going to Ben High City, would I have been willing to give up a steady job to marry you? Who do you think you are? Lucky for me, I bet right. Otherwise, who would put up with a broodmare like you for all these years? Now I'm out there with banners flying and children filling my house, and I can kick you out and enjoy all this endless dollar money by myself. Bliss." Sophia's lips trembled. She bowed her head and suddenly let out a low laugh. When she raised her face, her eyes were rimmed red but utterly dry. Sophia forced herself up through the pain, her tone calm. "Fine. Since it has come to this, there's no need to make a fuss, Dylan." She looked at me intently, but spoke to Dylan. "Let's go. I'll leave everything and divorce you immediately. I only have one request. Don't harass Ethan anymore." Surprise flashed in Dylan's eyes. Then he clenched his fist in anger. "Oh, so it's because you feel sorry for your lover. Don't worry. As long as you obediently divorce him, I have no grudge against that ant. There's no need to bother with him." Sophia was like a rag doll, letting Dylan drag her away. The two of them vanished into the night, their silhouettes gradually overlapping with that stormy night from the last life. Only this time, Sophia turned at the end of the road, her gaze desolate, silently shaping her mouth at me. I saw it clearly. She was saying sorry. A bad premonition suddenly surged in my chest. Early the next morning, the doorbell rang abruptly. I opened the door to find Officer Ryan Moore standing there, his expression grave. "Mr. Johnson, there was a fatal car accident nearby last night. 2 people died at the scene. After investigation, the deceased were Dylan and Sophia, and they last came here to see you. Please cooperate with the investigation and tell us what happened last night." My heart sank. "A car accident? What happened?" Ryan pressed his lips together, his face serious. "The vehicle lost control and plunged off a cliff. Both died at the scene. The cause of the accident was that the passenger, Ms. Sophia, intentionally provoked a struggle that made the steering wheel go out of control, causing the crash." I stood frozen, the image of Sophia turning her head in my mind. At the time, she had agreed to the divorce so submissively and left with Dylan. Could it be she had already decided to die together with Dylan? The police quickly established that I had nothing to do with the matter, and just as they brought the results, Sophia's lawyer Ava Bennett happened to arrive at the office. She said that in Sophia's will, she had donated all her assets to the Ancient Ruins Preservation Research Foundation. I turned to look at the white clouds on the horizon, my heart a turmoil of emotions. She had ended it all with such finality, yet left to the work I love a gratitude tinged with guilt. I opened the window and let the wind blow away all the past lives and memories.